everybody. Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about tag questions. We will learn what tag questions are, how to make tag questions, and also how to respond to tag questions. Okay, let's get started. So first, what are tag questions? Tag questions consist of a statement and a tag. And I'm sure that you've seen or heard these before. Maybe you're just not familiar with the term tag question, but basically a tag question would be something like this. It's a beautiful day, isn't it? So we have two parts here. We have a main statement, which is the first part in yellow, and then we have what is called a tag, which is the second part in blue. So a tag question will always have these two parts with a comma separating them. Why would we use a tag question? We normally use them when we want to encourage the other person to agree with us or to just talk with us. And it's a really great way to begin a small talk conversation. So the rules for making tag questions can be kind of complicated. And I have about 8 rules listed here that we'll go through, and we'll just take them one at a time. The first rule is the order of words in both the main statement and the tag. So if you can see here, the order in the main statement is subject, he, and the verb is. It's subject, verb, just like a regular sentence in English. And the tag, it reverses because it's a question. It's the opposite. So it should be the verb and then the subject. It's always the opposite of the main statement. The second rule is that the subject needs to be the same on both sides. He's funny. He is the subject, isn't he? You can't ask a tag question about two different things. It needs to be consistent. So whatever you're talking about in your main statement needs to be what you're asking about in the tag. The third rule is that if the subject of your main statement is a noun, that the subject of the tag needs to be the corresponding pronoun. So if we look at this, for example, the book was good, wasn't it? We wouldn't repeat the book again. It sounds kind of strange to say the book was good. Wasn't the book? It just sounds weird and unnatural. If the first statement uses a noun, we always replace that noun in the tag with a pronoun. And this can work for proper nouns as well. If you said to somebody, Paris is beautiful, isn't it? You need to say it's there. You could not repeat Paris. Paris is beautiful. Isn't Paris? It sounds very strange. So we would use it. And this works whether or not the subject is plural or singular. So if I change the first statement to those books are good, aren't they? They is the corresponding pronoun. We're not going to repeat those books. We need to replace it with the corresponding pronoun. Okay, the fourth rule. And this is where things start to get a little bit tricky for a lot of students. But it's actually pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So this rule says that the tag verb is always the opposite of the main statement verb. By opposite, I simply mean positive and negative. So if we have the book was good, there's no not here. It's not the book wasn't good. It was good. So it's positive. So that means that in the tag question, we need to add a not to this. We need to make it negative. The book was good, wasn't it? Now this works in reverse too. If your verb in the main statement is negative, such as he isn't a student, then the tag question needs to be positive. He isn't a student, is he? So they should always be opposite of one another. They can never be the same. They need to be opposites. Positive, negative, negative, positive. This one is also a little bit tricky, but basically the rule is that if the verb is not to be, so if it's not is, are, were, etc., and it doesn't include a modal or a helping verb, and I'll get to that more in the next couple of slides. The tag verb is always the opposite, positive, negative, of the verb do. What do I mean by that? So if we look at this statement here, the food looks delicious, doesn't it? We're not using the verb to be, we're using the verb looks, and there's no helping verb here, and there's no modal verb here. So we should use the verb do in the tag. The food looks delicious. This is positive, so the tag has to be negative, even if they're not the same verb. The food looks delicious, doesn't it? As another example, you speak Arabic, don't you? Or we arrived late, didn't we? Now, if we replaced all of these verbs with to be, for example, then we wouldn't use do. If I said we are late, then I can't use do here. I need to say we are late, aren't we? But because I use the verb arrive here, I will have to use the verb do in the tag. Just a heads up, this is a little bit different in British English. In American English, if we use the word have in the main statement, because it's not be or a helping verb, then we would say do in the second part in the tag. So for example, you have a cat, don't you? That's how an American would say it. But in British English, they will keep have in the second part in the tag. So they might say, you have a cat, haven't you? Which is either way is fine. They're both grammatically correct, but it's cultural. Here in the United States, we don't say haven't you, we would say do, don't you? And in UK, they wouldn't. Now the sixth rule here is that if the main statement has an auxiliary or a helping verb, the tag takes the opposite, positive, negative, auxiliary, or helping verb. For example, you haven't heard back from them, have you? This is the present perfect tense. So in order to make the present perfect tense, we need to use have not heard. Because of that, we have this helping verb have. It needs to be on the side of the tag as well. Have you? Now you don't have to repeat any of the other verbs here. You can just use have. You haven't heard back from them, have you? Same with number 2, the second example here. He isn't coming tonight, is he? This is present progressive. And to make the present progressive, we need the helping verb is or be. So that means that it needs to be on the other side as well in the tag. He isn't coming tonight, is he? We don't need any other verb. We just need that helping verb on the other side. In other words, the tenses should match. The helping verbs should be on both sides and not necessarily the main verb, but just the helping verb. The seventh rule, if the main verb has a modal, the tag will take the opposite modal, positive, negative. So if we use can, as the first example shows, your friend can't ski, can she? Negative, positive. We should study tonight, shouldn't we? Positive, negative. Now, if you don't remember what a modal is, that's okay. I have a list here for you. But basically, modal verbs are verbs like can, could, would, should, and will. So if you see that in the main statement, then it must be repeated in the second, in the tag. Your friend can't ski, can she? We should study tonight, shouldn't we? There is one exception to this, and that is the two modal verbs might and may. If we have a main statement with might or may, we don't use a proper tag, meaning we don't do the opposite and we don't change the word order. We usually just say right or no. We use a completely different tag. You might go out tomorrow, right? We wouldn't say you might go out tomorrow. Mightn't you? It sounds really weird. For some reason, it just sounds very strange. And it's the same with may. It may rain tomorrow. May not, it just sounds bizarre. So we usually just use right or no as a tag in these cases. Now, just to be clear, you can always use right or no as a tag. You don't necessarily need to rearrange the order and think about what is the positive, the negative. If that confuses you, you always have the ability to just say right or no at the end of your statement, and it will function as a tag question. However, if you want to sound a little bit more fluent, a little bit more natural, it is important to familiarize yourself with the correct order of tag questions and not just to always rely on right or no. Rule number 8. If the main verb has a modal expression, the tag verb has the opposite form of is or do. For example, this meeting has to end soon, doesn't it? Or all the children are able to swim, aren't they? Now, what is a modal expression? A modal expression is something like have to, have got to, be able to, ought to, and had better. And the reason that be able to is in bold is because it's the only one that will take is on the other side. All the others will take do, don't, etc. They'll take do. So if you can see, right, the first one, again, the meeting has to end soon. Because it has to, we use doesn't it? But in the second, all the children are able to, again, that's the one in bold, so we need to use is here. All the children are able to swim, aren't they? Now we'll talk about responding to tag questions, which a lot of students find tricky because there are two statements involved. So which one are we responding to? Don't overthink it too much. It's actually simpler than you might originally believe. So if somebody asks you a tag question and you want to agree or you want to confirm the truth of that question, then you respond to them using the same verb in the same form as the main verb and not the tag. For instance, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? Let's go back to our first original example. If you want to agree with this statement, you don't even have to worry about the tag. In fact, whether you want to respond because you agree or whether you disagree, you don't have to worry about the tag at all. You just have to focus on that main statement. If you agree with that main statement, you simply repeat what you heard. So if you agree, right, it's a beautiful day, you would say, yes, it is. I also think it is a beautiful day, is what that means. Now, you don't necessarily have to add yes or no, but I think it's a little helpful if the response is positive, meaning that if the original statement uses a positive verb and you want to agree, then you would use yes here just to add further clarification. Yes, it is. Here's another example. We don't have an exam today, do we? If you want to say that, yes, that's true, what you have asked me is the truth, I agree with you, then again, you're just repeating the same thing that you've heard in the main statement. So we don't, meaning we don't have an exam today, or no, we don't, because the verb in the main statement is negative, so we can add that no just to be extra clear. Again, just to summarize, if you agree with the original statement or you want to confirm the truth of the original statement, you should just repeat the verb form from that original statement. And if the main statement verb is positive, you can add a yes, or if the main statement verb is negative, you can add a no before your agreement or confirmation. Now, if somebody asks you a tag question that you want to disagree with or say, no, that's not true, that's not the case, then you would just do the opposite. You take that main statement, don't even worry about the tag, and do the opposite of what it has said. So if you don't agree that it's a beautiful day, you can say, no, it's not, because it's a beautiful day is positive. And if you don't agree, you just switch it. No, it's not. Again, and if your response is negative, meaning it has a not in it, you can add no. And if it's positive, meaning there is no not, then you can add a yes. For example, let's look at the next sentence here. The store doesn't open before 8 a.m., does it? So if the store does in fact open before 8 a.m. and you want to say, no, this is not true, this is not the case, you would switch the main statement verb. So yes, it does, because the main statement verb is negative. Okay, I know that's a lot of information. It's a little bit complicated, and it might take you some time to feel comfortable using these, but that's okay. You can take all the time that you need, practice them, feel comfortable with them, or simply just listen for them when native speakers are speaking or when you're listening to a series or TV show. I'm sure that you will notice these quite often. So in today's video, we learned what tag questions are and when we normally use them. We learned how to form tag questions, and we learned how to respond to tag questions. So even if you don't feel comfortable asking tag questions, at least you will know how to properly respond to them. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.